the best advice I have to make your breath meditations, or really any meditation, better is to lead with curiosity. Now, this is really important because curiosity really engages the mind. It really makes it a lot easier to focus if you are curious about something, if you have the desire to know something, right? I think it's an innate psychological drive that if you're curious and want to know something, you'll put more attention, more effort into it, right? And so what do I mean by that specifically for the breath, right? What is curious about the breath? How can you be curious about the breath, right? It's just something that comes in, goes out, inhales, exhales, and, you're focusing on your nose. It's a little windy, temperature changes. If you see it just as that, then it is a little harder to be curious about. I still think even within that understanding of framework, you can be curious about it. But really it's about connecting to what the breath means. When you're focusing, you're still focused on the physical breath, but be curious, on a first level, what the breath actually means. So if you can have the knowledge, right? There's the knowledge that the breath is keeping us alive. It's bringing oxygen into the system. And what does that really mean? That literally means it's giving you life. So one thing I like to do, this is one of the deeper curiosities that really creates a lot of intrigue in me because I really want to know how it's happening, right? And so it's sort of, how is this thing, this inhale and exhale, coming to bring me life? So when you're focused on the breath, let's say you're focused on the nostrils and you're close your eyes, you're breathing, be curious how that action, that inhale and exhale, is leading to the life that you are. So what I like to do is, the way that I understand it actually, is it's like closing a loop. It's like closing a loop, creating a feedback loop, and that allows me to go a lot deeper. Now, this is just a hypothesis. So what is this loop, right? So on the one hand, you have your awareness and you're focusing on the breath, right? So awareness to breath. Now, the breath is connected to the body, obviously. It is a part of the body. It's an outcome of the body. So awareness to breath, breath to body, and then this is my own understanding, body to brain and brain to mind, right? I think the mind is an outcome of the brain. If you look online, some people don't think so, and they may be right. It might be that the brain isn't the sole thing responsible for the mind, and there might be other things, but just as the way that I understand it, I accept that the brain creates the mind. So we have awareness, focusing on breath, breath connected to body, body connected to brain, brain connected to mind, mind creates awareness. And now we're back at the loop. So mind creates awareness, and awareness is on the breath, right? You see this loop now? Awareness to breath, breath to body, body to mind, mind to awareness. I didn't do a full circle, but this thing, and you can only be aware of two of these things, right? You can be aware of your awareness and the breath. And of course you can be aware of your body, but when you're doing breath meditation, you're just focusing on your breath. And obviously, how do you feel your brain? Can't really feel your brain. What is your mind? Is it the whole totality? Is it the mindscape? So it's really ambiguous, right? All these other things between awareness and breath. You can be you can know, oh, this is my awareness and this is my inhale and exhale at my nostrils. So creating this feedback loop. So when you're focused on the breath, right? Don't pay attention to the other aspects of the loop, but just try to be curious as to how the breath is leading and guiding this whole cycle, this loop that is happening, that is the birth of your experience. And I think what this really does, right, in mysticism, in meditation, if you listen to like Sadhguru, great guy, mysticism is exploring dimensions that are unseen, unfamiliar. So it is, in my understanding, this is what it is, right? So the breath is what is You can say, this is my breath. You can point to it. You can describe it. Anybody else would understand it. Now, the mechanism by which this connection is happening, how is my breath connected to my body? How's my body producing or like connected to my brain? What are the layers and the fingers or the threads that's connecting the brain to the mind and outputting the mind? And from the mind, the quality of awareness is looping. So all these things are hidden, right? You can't point to and say, all right, here is how my brain, here's the structure of my brain leading to my mind, right? You just can't, it's like you can't see it, you can't point to it. Of course, you can like say, hey, my brain is in here and my mind is in here, right? On a very surface level, you can point to it and say things like that. But to really explore, because there really is a connection between all these things. So being curious about how to explore these things that you can't really explore. You can't explore how your brain creates your mind, creates your awareness, right? Because it's just not tangible. But through the breath, you have this opportunity. So it's like, stay focused on the breath. Don't try to visualize how the breath is creating life. Like, don't try to visualize, just see your breath as it is, with the understanding, right? Or with the knowledge that it is like foundationally creating all these things. Now, of course, is breath the most foundational thing? No. But if you were to stop breathing for a couple minutes, you will die. So it's very much connected to the process of keeping you alive. So in that way, it is, the thing that is giving birth, or rather energizing this whole system. More than food. You can go a month or two or more without food. By the way, neat trick. The person I think that's gone the longest without food was like over a year, medically verified and all that good stuff. You can look it up. So anyway, you can go quite a while without food, and even without water, you can go days, maybe a week. I'm not really too sure, but obviously a lot shorter than food. But the breath, a few minutes. Like you could even like train and spend your whole life. I don't know what the world record is for someone who's held their breath, but we're talking not a very long time in the grand scheme of things. So this is the thing that is fueling it the most, and it is doing it sort of like in real time. So when you're focused on the breath, right, create this curiosity. How? With this knowledge that it is creating all of this, focus on it, and just focusing literally at the breath coming in and coming out. That curiosity will lead you to gain these deeper insights into what's going on. And that curiosity will also be able to, I find, helps me be more focused, because I'm like, how is this happening? Like, how does this work? How am I here and how am I existing? How is everything that I am experiencing coming out of this, right? This is, I think personally, the thing that I'm most curious about, and the thing that is most perplexing, right? Is like, how does this create my experience? How is my awareness? How is my consciousness, right? This is all a product. Like, how is all of this happening? This is like the most phenomenal thing. So for me, it's the thing that invokes the most curiosity. And it's the thing that I want to know the most, because how can I live if I don't know? So tip number one is being focused, being curious about what the breath is actually doing on the real level, not just on a level of, oh, it's just my breath, right? You can just start out, it can very easily just be like, oh, it's just my breath, nothing major is going on. It's just inhale and exhale, and it's just really good. I guess it helps me focus, like it represents so much more, and you can only tap into that by being curious. And that leads into the next tip, which is connected to thoughts, right? Obviously, when you're meditating, thoughts are going to come. You're going to get distracted. Memories are going to come. Emotions are going to come. All these things come up. That's just meditation. So my tip, what I hear all the time is, just, hey, either note it, be Don't have too much expectations, and come back to it. And I think, I think all of it, most of the advice on distraction and meditation can be properly applied, but I think sometimes it's a little misunderstood. But anyway, the way that I handle my thoughts when I am distracted, right? I don't spend a lot of time or a lot of energy on being distracted, right? So I think number one, don't overreact to it, right? Let's say you get distracted. Don't be like, oh, damn, oh, this is bad. I'm so bad. And also, don't be too happy about it. Because some people are like, well, when you catch yourself distracted, it's such a beautiful moment. You got to appreciate it because then you can come back. But when you do that too much and you're like, hey, yeah, look, I caught myself not, distracted, and I'm thinking, and then this will just start to roll into another thought and it'll like start to make another avalanche. So it's sort of like just having a more neutral reaction, right? And so when you sit to meditate, or lay down, or sit on a couch, whatever position, comfortable position you're in, which is the other tip actually. Be in a comfortable position. You don't have to be seated cross-legged. I meditate on my couch all the time, on my chair, on a kneeling bench, sometimes laying down, right? You can meditate in a comfortable position. So anyway, back to this other thing. So a thought comes, you have to have a sort of a neutral, obviously accept that it's happened, accept that you're there. Don't hate yourself. Don't love it too much either, but a little bit. You can love it a little bit. And then just come back. Just remember your intention. Your intention is you're here to observe who you are through this thing that is the breath, right? You're observing the breath in order to understand the nature of who you are, right? And I think that's the other belief. Don't meditate. Don't focus on your breath to build concentration like that. I think that's doing a major disservice, because if you just want to build concentration, you could focus on other things, right? If that was your main goal, you can focus on something a lot more exciting or a lot more enjoyable, a lot easier to focus on as well. The breath provides an opportunity to tap into the nature of how you're existing, the form, the shape, the reality that is you. So always, right? This is your intention when you sit to meditate is, I am discovering, I am exploring, I am understanding, I am seeking wisdom, I'm seeking knowledge about the nature of my existence through observing the breath in a systematic and in a controlled way. Right? That's what meditation is, in my perspective. So when thoughts come, just remember this is your intention. And I, in my mind, make the intention that whenever I catch myself distracted, I will fully just come back to the breath and just focus on it, right? It can get a little tempting, because what happens when you do get distracted, because you're in a more aware state. Let's say when you're meditating, right? You're more aware than if this thought were to come up at a different time. So with that more awareness, there tends to be a little more wisdom that is with the thought. You tend to have a little more space. Let's say maybe you're not reacting as heavily as if, you were busy doing something and the thought popped up. And so there is the thought or the memory when it comes. Because you're in a meditative state, you're able to, let's say, have a different perspective on it. So it can be really easy to start to be like, oh, well, I should explore what these thoughts mean. I should try to, see and heal. I have this different perspective. And you can start to do all these things that then get you out of the state that is giving you that heightened awareness. Then by the time you're figuring out the thought or whatever, you've lost the state that you were in that you found valuable because you weren't meditating now. Now you were rolling in your thoughts. So it can be a very tempting, you could even, spin up a story and say, well, when the thoughts arise in meditation, I am so much wiser, more aware, more calm and patient. And and then it's counterproductive. So you're sitting down to meditate on your breath in order to understand the nature of who you are. To observe the breath. You're always observing the physical breath. Don't get lost and try to be like, okay, where is my mind? Where's my, don't try to intentionally pay attention to these other things, right? Just keep paying attention to the breath, stay focused, knowing that the thing that you are observing is connected to and fueling all this whole cycle. So that was quick recap. I've got more, but just quick recap so far. Curiosity, number one, you just got to be curious. Number two, when your thoughts come, have a neutral, like remember your intention, come back to the breath. You're not here to roll in your thoughts. Don't be too hard on yourself, obviously. Don't puff yourself up for catching yourself, for catching that you are distracted, because then that also brings other troubles. So now, bringing back to curiosity to the actual physical breath, you have to be curious about a specific aspect of the breath. And this is really important. You have to be curious about a specific aspect of the breath. So that could be, one thing I like to do is I will focus on one nostril. Like I tend to, keep my focus in my nostril area, maybe the area right below the nostrils, above the upper lips, and just generally keep my awareness super small, because keeping that awareness small also increases the sharpness, also increases how concentrated you can be, and you might not be able to just keep your focus in, a couple inches right here. Maybe you make your focus a little bigger, like it goes all over your nostril to your lips and not like this. Okay, let me see in the camera. Yeah, like you don't got to make it super small. You can make it a little bit bigger depending on where you're at. So making your awareness small on a smaller area brings more challenge, and that challenge creates more incentive, like you want to beat it, or you're motivated to do it because it's harder to do, right? It's like trying to balance, if you have like a ruler or something and you focus on like trying to balance it, you will put way more attention and you'll be way more concentrated in trying to keep it balanced versus, let's say the ruler was like just laying flat, or let's say the pen was just laying flat in your hand, because like there's so much surface area being touched that the balance isn't really required. And so you can hold a pen like this or a ruler like this and it won't create that feeling. But if you, stick it up, if the pen, let's see the camera, if the pen is like this and you're balancing it and you're just focused on where the pen is making contact right here, because this is such a smaller area compared to the whole thing, it just creates much more intention, much more awareness, much more concentration. So it's the same thing with your awareness, right? Let's say your awareness is a certain size, like it's pretty big if you just feel it. So if you focus it on, let's say, your whole head, then you can just feel your whole head and it won't be too hard. But if you like really try to focus and like you just try to feel like a fingertip right here, just the act of making your awareness that's this big come into such a small spot, it's like balancing a pen, right? It'll just the act of trying to do it will make you more concentrated, right? So that's I guess tip number one for the actual physical practice is make your awareness as small as where you're at, is the other caveat. Because you might not be able to make it the, fingertip. Maybe for you, it's like, this much. Maybe it's like this much. Maybe it's like this much. Maybe it is a fingertip. So find where it's challenging and where you're actually focused. Find your level of how small is it challenging for my awareness and how small actually just makes me naturally pay more attention because it's just harder to do. And then in the physical, you can focus on, a specific part. Sometimes I put my awareness, I pay attention to like the inner walls. So I'll have the two inner walls of my breath and I'll just focus on the breath there, right? And it's like going up and down. Or sometimes I'll just focus on like the inner nostrils and it's like a little bigger, and the breath is coming, in and out here. Or I'll focus on, like my upper lips or the space between my upper lips and underneath my nose. Then now my breath, like from my awareness that's down here, my breath is like coming above, like let's say this is my nostrils up here. And let's say this is the space right between right underneath my nostrils above my upper lips. So it's like the breath is coming here and my awareness is right here. And so it'll just give you a different perspective. Or another one that I like to do is this area right here, right in between your nose. Like once you're able to feel sensations in your body, you know, you'll progress. First, you can only feel the feeling of the air coming in and out. But then if you meditate enough, you'll be able to start to feel sensations. So if you're able to focus on the sensations right here, then your breath feels like this. Imagine my face is this thing. Then the breath feels like it's going like this, right? It's like going on the sides of you, and it is like doing that basically. So it's like pick an interesting part to you in that moment of the physical location that you're focusing on, with the understanding that, you know, the smaller the area of focus for your awareness, the sharper it's going to be. And also, you know, if you get bored of focusing on the breath, you know, going like this, then you can focus and it's like going like this, or you can focus on the inside of the nostrils. You can focus on the inner walls. You can, you know, pick something different. While you're in the meditation session, you can change, right? You don't have to stick to one that you started right in the beginning. Like if you started with right here, you can switch here, you can switch there, you can move around. So those are the top 3 tips. Be curious, close the loop, and then change your areas of focus. Make it fun, make it more interesting. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.